Hello everybody, I want to come at you with a little bit of a special edition here today because I've already filmed today's video and I'm trying to make this quick so that I can actually edit it and maybe get it uploaded when I go downtown today. But I want to do a little news break here on what's going on in Washington, D.C. and I want to address the hypocrisy in the media and the mental gymnastics I'm seeing today from these people trying to justify why they want this stopped and why this is a riot and it's a sedition and it's a civil war. You know, they're like, it's not a protest, it's sedition. Well, how is it any different than the BLM protests and the Antifa protesters? Yeah, this is a big protest today. People are angry. And I think they have a right to be seen and a right to be heard. Just like I agree with BLM's right to be seen and right to be heard. I agree with Antifa's right to be seen and be heard. Same thing with the KKK. All of them have a right to be seen and be heard. That doesn't mean they're right. It just means they have a First Amendment. They enjoy the protections of the First Amendment. So I'm watching it today. You know, these people at the Capitol, the reporters, the police, the politicians, they've all seen bigger protests. This isn't the biggest protest. This isn't even the biggest protest in the last 5 years. Much less does it compare to the Vietnam stuff and everything like that. But here's the thing. They've also seen more violent protests. Because this protest so far hasn't been violent. If this is supposedly the Civil War or sedition, it's been awful peaceful. As much as they're trying to portray it as violent, I haven't seen any violence. I haven't seen, statues being torn down. I haven't seen windows being broken. I haven't seen people bum rushing people and beating them up or shooting at people. And everyone in that crowd there, I'm sure a lot of them have the ability to cause real problems. I'm sure a lot of them are armed. And even if they're not, just in sheer numbers, they could cause a lot of damage. But they're not. They're being heard. And everyone has that right. And as far as I'm concerned, they're like, it's violent because they've entered the Capitol. Well, that's public property as far as I'm concerned. And plus, a little bit of civil disobedience is a good thing when people are protesting. I seem to remember these same reporters and these same politicians saying when Antifa or BLM are blocking a highway, well, it's a little civil disobedience and that's part of protest. And that's dangerous. This is not nearly that dangerous. People just standing on the Capitol steps or even going into the rotunda or going into the Hall of Statues. And that's another thing. All these statues around, I don't see a single one of them with a rope around their neck being pulled down. I don't see any public property or private property being destroyed. Maybe the grass getting torn up, but that's expected every time there's a rally or something. So it shocks me to see the hypocrisy. And I mean, it's coming from both sides. I mean, there's people on the right that are like, they're doing nothing wrong, who demonized other protest groups for doing similar things. But there's also the media right now that's saying, this is violent and this needs to be broken up. Where's the National Guard? When no one's done anything violent. Just walking up the steps and even walking in the building is not violent. And if these are violent seditionists, I'm going to say they suck at it. Because as you're watching the footage of them in the Hall of Statues, which, as I said, all the statues stayed standing as of the time I'm filming this. If things get worse, well, then we'll look at who escalated it and see what happened. But as of right now, they're all walking through the Hall of Statues. And except for the people with cameras that are filming it, they're staying between the fucking velvet ropes. They're actually like they're taking the tour. I don't see them doing anything violent. And then they tried to portray, there's an armed standoff in the rotunda. Police officers drew their guns on a person who was in the rotunda. It wasn't an armed standoff. For there to be a standoff, I think for it to be considered a true armed standoff, both sides got to be armed. When it's just the police that are armed, it's not a standoff. There was no standoff. I'm sure that guy decided, I don't want to get shot. But the way the media, like I said, the mental gymnastics they're going to try to explain why they supported it when Antifa was doing it or BLM was doing it, and why now it's violent sedition. It's just shameful to watch. That's why I always tell people, be sure you grant the same rights to every person, because then you don't got to look like a hypocrite later when someone does the same thing that that person you disagreed was doing earlier that you do agree with now. That way you don't have to look like a hypocrite, like you didn't like it when they were doing it, but it's okay when our people are doing it. That's why you got to be okay when anyone does it. And you'd think the media would understand that more than anything. But they don't seem to. Like I said, what's going on in Washington right now, I think, needs to happen. Politicians need a wake-up call to see how disenfranchised, how unhappy, and how disappointed in our government so many people are. And like I said, so far, they've been very responsible. They're not shooting at people. They're not tearing down statues. They're not breaking windows. They're not setting cars on fire. If that happens, it'll be dealt with. But it ain't happening. So let's not try to pretend like it is. And I'm sorry, just showing up isn't sedition. A lot of people out there truly believe there are problems. And there are problems. We have a government that hasn't served the people for decades. So what's going on there? Like I said in the video I'm going to be posting today that I filmed yesterday, I said it'll probably all go smoothly. And a lot of people will go, huh, so much for going smoothly. But so far, what I see is going smoothly. It's like what I said. There will be protests. They might get violent. But at the end of the day, I think everything will sort itself out because most people are patriots and they don't want to destroy the country. They want to do things in a way that saves the country. Right or wrong, I think most people will admit at the end we have to do what's best for the country. And they'll do what they think is best for the country. And we will, as a citizen, as a country, deal with that. And here's the thing, if you can't come to a conclusion that makes the majority of people happy, and I'm not talking 51%, well, then you're probably not doing your job. Because there's no reason that so many people would be disenfranchised in this country, other than the fact that politicians only serve the 1% and the corporations. And that's on both sides. So this is not a riot. As of right now, it's a large protest. It's not violent. There's some civil disobedience involved, but it isn't violent. I haven't seen anybody be hurt. I haven't seen any this property destroyed. Now, what happens in the end? Well, we all know most big protests, there's going to be some violence. It doesn't mean all of them are violent. If all these people decided to be violent at the same time, that building would be to the ground by the end of the day today. There will be some groups of people that do something questionable. There will be some people that are incited by police to do things that they see as defending themselves against police. But at the end of the day, this is not a riot. This is a protest. And I thought the media was supposed to be pro-protest. I know I'm pro-protest. I'm an ally to anyone that gets out, gets up there and lets themselves be seen and heard, because that takes guts. So it's not a riot, like I'm saying. People need to calm down. The media needs to step back and examine their own hypocrisy. Some people on the right that were so not okay with it when other groups were doing it need to say, okay, maybe this is why I should support these things, even if I don't agree with them, because eventually I'm going to have to support my people when they do it. So in the end, like I said, what's going on in Washington, D.C. needs to be going on. It's a protest. It's not a riot. As of yet, it's not sedition either. It's not civil war. It's people being seen and being heard. And I thought that's what we were supposed to stand for as a country, not be a bunch of hypocrites that only believe in the First Amendment when it's someone we agree with. Damn it. I am a grown-ass man.